Another physical running back in the Big Ten comes in at number 6, and that is Kaytron Allen, the first of 2 Penn State running backs on this list. Kaytron Allen, man, is the thunder to Nick Singleton's lightning. That's the best way to describe him, man, because he has just really, really good power. Penn State probably is the best backfield in college football, entering next year with 2 top 6 running backs in the country. Kaytron Allen has a 92.5 rushing grade over the last 2 years, top 15 in the country, second among returning Power 4 running backs as well. And his 2,000 rushing yards over the last 2 years, exactly 2,000 rushing yards over the last 2 years. Third in the returning Power 4 with over 1,200 yards after contact and 83 forced missed tackles. He's not really a threat as a receiver like Nick Singleton is. Doesn't really have home run speed either like Nick Singleton does, but he's been a very efficient runner for the Nittany Lions. He grinds out tough yards. He had an excellent game in that final and Boise State playoff game for Penn State this past year as well. I think Kaytron Allen would be a number one running back for most schools, but he is a really, really good number 2 running back for Penn State, and honestly is a 1A, 1B with him and Nick Singleton.
Yeah, I think, look, a lot of the conversation about Allen and Singleton is comparing who has what and who doesn't have the other, right? And I think with Allen, what you do have, and I think actually the one thing he has that's better than Singleton right now is his vision and his knowledge of the variety of run schemes that Andy Kotelnicki is going to run, right? Whereas we'll get into Singleton in a minute as more of a one-cut runner, but Allen, when you look at his vision and his ability to pick apart defenses despite not having that top gear, that's big time. And you mentioned the thunder complement to Singleton's lightning. He's the more physical, I think, of the 2 backs. He's compact. He's got big legs. He'll run right through people because, well, he knows he has to, right? He's not going to blaze by anybody, and you mentioned it, not much of a factor in the receiving game. But if you talk about a back that you want to just make the right cut and keep you on schedule, Kaytron Allen's your guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought both these guys might have declared for the NFL draft this past year. Both of them decided to come back to school for another year, and kind of a cool thing to watch for Penn State this upcoming year. So right now, Nick Singleton is 10th all-time in rushing yards at Penn State. Kaytron Allen is 11th all-time in rushing yards at Penn State. If either of them have 1,000 to 1,100 yards next year, they will pass Evan Royster for the most all-time at Penn State. So you could see Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen at the end of the year be the all-time leading rushers in Penn State history.
They both had 1,000 last year, right? I think
so.
Were they? We'd have to look at it. It was them, probably Judkins and Henderson. We'd have to see how many pairs of backs had last year.
Yeah.
Each had 1,000 yards. Those might be the only 2 pairs, honestly.
They'll probably run the ball a lot next year at Penn State, too. Nick Singleton's a little bit closer than Kaytron Allen, but really they're right neck and neck, and they're both about 1,000 to 1,100 yards away, which is very possible for both of them going to next year. So it'll be interesting to watch that race to see if any of them can become the all-time leading rusher at Penn State as well. Nick Singleton from Penn State. Kind of a big surprise he came back to school, honestly. A lot of people thought he was going to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick in this last year's draft in a loaded running back class as well. Singleton comes back to school for another year and should be one of the top running backs in next year's draft. In fact, I'd probably put him number 2 right now for next year's draft, behind the number 1 guy that we'll get to on this list as well. Nick Singleton had over 1,100 rushing yards last year. Only 2 running backs in the Power 4, returning Power 4 running backs, had more than him, and they'll be the top 2 guys on this list we'll get to in just a second. 6.4 yards per carry was 8th in the Power 4, as well as a very efficient runner. Nick Singleton was the 2nd most valuable returning running back in college football, according to a wins above average metric. The top guy is the number 1 guy on this list. We'll get to a little bit later on as well. Singleton also, very dynamic player out of the backfield as a receiver. He has nearly 700 receiving yards over the last 2 years, the 5th most of any running back in that span in the country, and the most among returning Power 4 running backs as well. 7 receiving touchdowns are tied for the most in the nation over the last 2 years as well. It's a great size for position. He's 6'1", 226 pounds, and has home run speed that can take the house from anywhere on the field as well. Between him and Kaytron Allen, man, Penn State has the best backfield in the country, and Nick Singleton is a more speedy guy. He was my number 3 player on the list.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You look at Singleton and you go size and speed, home run ability, one-cut ability. I think the difference for me, and I just wonder if there's going to be any tells in this Penn State offense, is Allen, to me, has more scheme versatility and a little bit better vision. Singleton, when he makes that one cut and he just gets north and south and goes, he is an absolute load to bring down. And you mentioned he's just got the home run ability and the receiving ability that Allen doesn't, which makes him a lot more versatile. And we know darn well Penn State needs all the receiving help they can get. But I think think what you have in Singleton, the only thing I need to see this year that he could even move higher on this list into the top 2 is a little bit better vision and, again, a little more scheme versatility. When he goes and he decides he's going to make that cut and he just gets after it, he's a problem. He's a serious problem, no question. That's the only thing for me is there's times when he hesitates just a little bit. He's got all the ability in the world. Just don't hesitate. Just get out there, make your cut, run hard, and make things happen because he got all the size and the speed in the world. But I think maybe I would have him a spot or 2 lower than you do because I think him and Allen are a little more equal. I get with Singleton with the tools and the speed, but, I mean, to have 2 backs like this on the same team, I mean, that helps. That helps a lot, especially with a very good offensive line that's getting even better, going to be in year 2 of this system, and obviously Drew Aller at quarterback. But, no, Singleton has all the tools he could ever ask for, and when he's out in the open field, forget it.
Absolutely. Yeah, Penn State should run the ball a lot next year, even with a future NFL quarterback in Drew Aller as well. So with Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen, the best backfield in the country, in my opinion. He comes in at number 3. Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.